Got a little story for you, Ags. UV Doron is a Navy veteran, a Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2010 grad, and he is on a mission to fix the world by providing and manufacturing a safer tank transport for liquid propane.
So pass it back and listen to UV as he shares some good bull.
Well, we want to just get right into it, and so I was looking at your LinkedIn profile a little bit earlier. So you are a Texas A&M graduate, class of 2010. You are unique in that you are both a University of Texas and Texas A&M grad. So I'm glad that you saw the light and joined the Aggies. But what is your favorite Aggie experience?
So, well, it is kind of bizarre the way that I ended up at Texas A&M, right? So my undergrad was at UT, but while I was at UT, one of my teacher assistants was an Aggie grad who went and did his grad work at UT. We met there and we became good friends. We ended up working together in the fluids lab in Texas, in UT. When we parted ways, and he went on and got his PhD from Virginia Tech. And the reason I'm elaborating because it's important to the story. So there's a good background. So his name is Andrew Duggleby. And when he got his PhD at Virginia Tech, we stayed in contact. Then he moved on and became a professor at Texas A&M here in College Station. There was an opportunity when Andrew came and professed here. He had an interesting research project which had to do with fluids. And since he and I had really good experience in the fluids laboratory at UT, he thought, well, who else would be better to work on this with me than UV? He called me up. It was an incredibly opportune time because I had just separated from my family business. And I said, this will be a great idea. I came out to A&M. The last time I was at A&M was 1995. And from 1995 to 2009, there was quite a few changes, both to the community, the size, the roads. Didn't recognize anything.
Right.
So in terms of experience, the shock of the size growth, 1995 to 2008, if you will, was tremendous. The idea was then, we worked together at A&M. A&M was, at least in the mechanical engineering department, was gracious enough to accept me. And the reason I'm saying gracious enough, because I'm not a stellar student in the definition that is, or the metrics that I use today to define a stellar student, that is the grade point average. I am not a stellar student as defined with a GPA. I'm a stellar student in every other aspect, which is something unique that we can just talk about, but which is actually relevant to how things are in the industry. But A&M, specifically mechanical engineering, were able to, if you will, put aside the GPA metric and say, you know what, there's more to this that meets the eye. Let's take this guy and put him in our graduate program. So that was a very good, obviously indication for me. That's a great experience to know that not all things are measured the same way all the time.
Right.
And circumstances are evaluated, which they were, which gave me the opportunity to join A&M Mechanical Engineering Program. So if you're talking about a great experience, that was encapsulating the great experience.
Wow, that's awesome. So how did you get into your business now? Like, can you tell us a little bit about that?
So things don't always turn out as you plan. There's an old joke in my culture that says, you make plans and God laughs. Well, nothing can be further from the truth here because we did not plan this. I did not plan this at all. Some things do get planned out. We have people in the industry that do plan a company. We have some great ones to look at examples. I don't have to list them here, but we know they're there. People that have a goal, they have an idea of what they want to do, and they move on from there and they achieve it. Not always, but they do achieve it. In our story, it's nothing like it. So when I graduated from Texas A&M, my friend Andrew Duggleby and I, we were really good friends, still to this day. And we thought, well, it was 2009. Industry was still at the housing collapse recovery mode. It was difficult for a graduate to find a job. And I'm not exactly one that can be considered an employee. It's something that I struggle with. And so I just started looking for work. and I found quite a bit of work, contracting and whatnot in engineering. And my friend Andrew said, "Why don't we open up an engineering company? I can bring my skill set to the table. You have your skill set. Let's see what happens." And we did that. So we formed Exosent in 2010, purely engineering, and it's all we did is provide engineering services to people that we found. It wasn't spectacular. It was not stellar. It was very much struggling. Our first 6 months was our office was Sweet Eugene's, and that's how we worked. I found some contract work in Houston, which I had to drive back and forth. And our first real contract came much later, which then we moved into small office, single office space in university. And, again, we were just an engineering company. 2011 came, and you could say my appetite for fabrication was full, and I didn't have it doing just engineering. It's something that I've always done, so I had to find a way to get back into fabrication manufacturing. And I spoke to my father, who was still running our family business in Houston, about some ideas that I had. He was not too much aligned with me, but he helped me find some customers that would be interested. And I did find one of our old customers, and he was interested in helping us get going. He gave us a contract to build what's called vacuum trailers, which is nothing but a water tank trailer which holds water either to and from well sites or other reasons you have these tankers move just water. It is a tanker. It's not hazardous. It's not too hard to do. And that's so we literally I rented a building here in College Station. I hired a plumber and I hired a carpenter, and those were my first 2 employees. And we started from there. That's how we started Exosent. That's not how we ended up where we are today.
How did you transform from the water to, because you're a very specialized manufacturer?
Right. So the vacuum trailers, they do require quite a bit of engineering. They don't require it. You can put engineering into them, which we do. On the back end, customers don't really care. They want to pay a set price so they can buy, from me or from 10, 20, or 40, or 300 other companies that produce the same, if you will, in quotations, the same article, but doesn't have the same amount of engineering put into it. The vacuum trailer business is not very lucrative. The profit margins are very thin. And again, as explained earlier, anyone with a welder can put these together. No certifications are required, no authorizations. It's quite simple. Just as a coincidence, my customer's representative, one of my customers, we were just walking in the yard one day and looking at one of the trailers we were about to finish, and he had a phone call. And he did not pick up the phone. He was actually somewhat frustrated, and me sticking my nose where it doesn't belong. I said, "Why are you frustrated? What's the story?" And he said, "Oh, this guy wants me to talk to him about these propane trailers." And I was astonished. I said, "What is a propane trailer? Never heard of one. What is it?" And he said, "Well, it's a tank, kind of like you build, but he says that don't even think about it because it's such a high-end product. There's only 3 companies currently in the U.S. that manufacture them. It's a very unique, I don't know." So that's all I had to hear.
Entrepreneur, just spidey sense going off.
That's right. So my partner and I, Andrew, did incredible amount of research. Since we're both, we were in the mind at that time. I also started professing at A&M in mechanical engineering, and the mindset of an engineer, at least as I define one, is one that evaluates what's on the ground and see if anything can be improved upon and make it useful. You can't just improve if it's not useful, but if you can improve and make it useful, boy, do you have something. And that's what we did. So we immediately started investigating to see what these propane tankers are, where are they used, how are they used, and can anything be done to improve? And my partner immediately recognized that there is an improvement that can be done. We looked at it together and we discovered that the tankers that have been in the propane industry have always been these long, we call them tic tacs. They're just a barrel with 2 hemispherical ends on them. We call them hemispherical heads. They look the same. They have been the same way throughout the world for about 50 years. They have not evolved at all. And we recognize that we can make some changes and improve upon. So for the next 2 years, all we've done is work on the designs, In parallel, we worked on getting our certifications. You have to get certifications from Department of Transportation. You have to get certifications from American Society of Mechanical Engineers, known as ASME. And you have to find customers. I mean, that's, you can't just say, well, I want to do this and put them on the store shelf and hope that people come pick them up. It doesn't work this way. And it specifically doesn't work in this industry this way, right? Just because you create something doesn't mean people will buy it. So that's how we kind of ended up where we are with our transport trailers for propane.
So UV, when you looked at the current product that was out there and you said, look, I can improve this, but I can improve this in a way that is valuable, not just to my curiosity as an engineer, but to the end user. How do you educate the end user, that this is a better mousetrap?
That is I think that's $1 million question, if not a $60 million question. The answer is not easy. There is fortunately and unfortunately, there's a mindset that people have that is hard to change. And I'll just illustrate another parallel industry, the housing market. Our housing market hasn't changed. I think in over 100 years, we build the same wood frame houses that fly away with the wind, that termites come and eat, and we haven't changed that industry. There are technologies out there that are equally as cheap, if you will, but 10 times better. But the clientele, if you will, has refused to acknowledge them or even accept them. Directly, the answer to your question, it's not easy. In this particular industry, it's not easy. I recall that when we first had one of our first tankers done, actually our first tanker done, and we decided to include it in one of the industry expos, I was the laughing stock of the show. Not only was people were not marveled at it, I was laughed at incredibly. And the mindset of the industry was, oh, he will be gone by next year. This is stupid. This is not relevant. What a dumb idea. I'm no longer the laughing stock, but in the beginning, absolutely, this was actually looked down upon.
So you had to have a lot of intestinal fortitude and belief in yourself, in your engineering, in your technology, to know as like the industry is wrong. Well, I will prove the industry wrong.
So my father, God bless his soul, had some smart philosophies which I've adopted. One of them was, and it could be maybe also something to our culture, but the idea was, without being too stupid about it, when you find an idea and if you want to go for it, you go as if there is no contingency, as if there is no back door. And again, without being too stupid about it, right? You don't want to send yourself into a brick wall and say, well, I can plow through it. You have to be somewhat, cognitive of that reasoning. But the idea is that you go full forward, full steam ahead, and there is no back door. Because if you say to yourself, I'll try it all, or I hope this works, boy, that leaves you with that just even in the mindset. There's an open back door. I can always go out of it. And when that exists, when you can say I can always go out of it, I don't think your determination will be the same.
I agree. Yeah. And I've heard the same thing in all sorts of entrepreneurial circles of burn the bridges, right? Burn the ships. Make sure that you cannot go backwards, and the only way to go is forward, right?
So that, again, I don't know if it's correct, but I believe it's one of the ways that we can plow forward and you say to yourself, well, I've given it all I have. Things don't always turn out as you wish them to be, right? There are circumstances where things don't turn out as you wish them to turn out. But, our life on this earth is so short. And I don't believe the safe route is the route that life is about. But that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, I agree. So kind of shifting gears a little bit here, has COVID affected your business? Has anything changed in your business because of this whole COVID craziness? And how are you hacking and overcoming any of these changes and challenges that you're facing?
Well, Chris, I think even the way you phrased the question was interesting. I was listening to every word. You said the craziness of it. And there is something very fundamental about this COVID. It has an effect. The first effect that we observe is our workers were concerned. There was not necessarily for their safety, but for the health of the business. Is the business going to be affected, like what you're pointing out, Chris? Like, will this have an effect on you? So the first concern that the workers had, will we have a job? Right? So that was the first. This happened way early, in March. That we had to have a meeting, and I conveyed, my reasons and my assessment of, if you will, of what I see, and I was able to provide some calm. In addition to that, we are very, very fortunate to be in the industry that we are in as Exosent, because the U.S. government immediately labeled us as an essential business, as we are providing literally. The label was propane associated businesses and manufacturing. So we were, we were forsaking the closures, if you will, because of our level of expertise. So the first concern was to provide some calm. The second concern was safety. Are we going to be okay? What is going on? Will our families be okay? It's upsetting to me that both our social media and our industrial media have done, in my opinion, a very, I don't want to say the word poor because it doesn't define anything, inadequate job at explaining the facts, at discussing the alternatives, and discussing the circumstances of this virus. They've done a very poor job. In fact, what I think we have done is create hysteria. And when that hysteria is manifested itself into millions of people, maybe billions of people, the circumstances or the ramifications could be severe in terms of where do we go and where do we move forward as industry and as a civilization. So the direct answer to your question is we had to provide a level of comfort, a level of calmness, education. We are fortunate enough that we do have enough sources here to look at numbers, to assess the real numbers, to create our own graphs which reflect reality. And we did provide that to our workers, and that actually helped a lot to alleviate the fears which existed.
So having your workers, it seems like that was the biggest impact that your business had from a supplier point of view, from a client point of view. Have you seen about the same slowdown, acceleration?
No, there was and there still probably is a bit of a slowing down of the business. And I think it comes from uncertainty, not necessarily directly from COVID, but as a circumstance of COVID. There's an uncertainty in our sector, at least
in the whole economy.
In the whole economy, I think it exists as well. We're fortunate enough that it's a very small industry, and the effect has not been severe. There was an effect, but not a severe effect.
That's amazing that you are in that industry, but I love how you have identified the biggest risks or the biggest impacts in saying that that's to your employees and giving them the calm, giving them the peace. And that's what an entrepreneur, you've got to put on your leadership hat, and you've got to say, I'm leading these people, not only from a technical standpoint, but to give you confidence.
I will tell you a story. I love telling sea stories. So we're all ex-military, so I have my sea stories. I recall a very interesting occurrence that happened to us. We were in the Gulf. So I was in the first Gulf War and spent quite a bit of time in the Gulf. And there was an incident that happened on our ship where we lost power. That happens every now and then. It's nothing unusual to lose power. But we were in the Straits of Hormuz, and that's the last place you want to lose power, because it can easily drift to unfriendly waters, and then things turn bad very, very quickly. Not only did we lose power, we had two, we call them boats in the water that did some operations, and our only way of putting the boats back onto the ship was with ship's power, but we had no ship's power. To this day, I marvel at the actions of our captain. I won't mention his name because maybe he doesn't want to be mentioned. I don't even know if he's alive today or not, but this was a long time ago. But the captain, he showed incredible calm, a calm that I have not seen since, in fact. And he organized, of course. We knew there were procedures in place. It was not that there was no procedures of what to do in such an event. We had procedures in place, but to go from from procedures in place to actually practicing them in reality, and again in the circumstance that we were given, was interesting. But I absolutely recall I was on the deck of the ship. I was involved with the operation of bringing the boats back on the ship. And I just recall looking at the bridge where he was standing overlooking everything. He would get on the speaker and he walked the deck. But the calmness that the captain exerted was marveled. And I remembered that this was something that I imprinted into my brain. I said, I will be that way. No matter what the circumstance, no matter what the panic mode should be, I will be like that. I will be calm, because not being calm doesn't do anything. But I will maintain calmness at any event. And I must tell you that to this day, I've been able to fulfill that calmness. Not only in the COVID situation, but in other things that we have here. We are a fab shop. It is a dangerous environment. The effect that it has is so immediate and so well, conveyed, that everybody around you all of a sudden feels the same level of relaxation. Okay, we have an incident. Let's address it, item by item. And I absolutely attribute that characteristic to that captain in that time.
UV, is that a mindset thing, or is that something that you've practiced? Is it something that you've drawn from your personal life? Because you have to be grounded in times of uncertainty. My military experience tells me that that's tactical patience, but that is hard to learn.
And hard to practice. I think the direct answer to your question is yes. You have to adopt a philosophy, and then you have to find a way to facilitate that philosophy and exercise that philosophy. And I think that has to do with what you've seen perhaps, and what you're willing as a person to, I'm not going to use the word sacrifice because not much sacrifice, but to utilize. It is a choice. I believe it's a choice.
So I want to dig into that a little bit, because I've heard you say over and over here, how you being calm during this COVID period, and the story that you just said there about the captain being calm. What do you define as leadership? I'm putting you on the spot here because this wasn't any of our questions whatsoever, but I think it's important.
How many years do we have? My definition of good leadership is the idea of being able to bring people along with you on your endeavor, on your journey, on your goal. And if you can achieve that, obviously without not under duress. So you don't want to put people under duress to achieve your goal. If you can achieve that with free will. And I'll give you let's dig into that just a little bit, because you're right. There is value here, and I'll retrieve another memory from my Navy career, which, by the way, was fantastic. I recommend everybody to join the military, but that's me. Side note. But I was always a worker. That's just who I am. I enjoy work. I enjoy doing something that I see value in. I define good work as follows. This is important. I define good work as your signature or your shadow. Your work is your shadow left behind. The question is, what kind of shadow did you leave? So once you've done work, let's just say that you're an exemplary individual and you do incredible work. If I knew your kind of work and you left, you're gone, a year later I come back and I say, who did this work? And I'm like, wait a second, I know this was Chris's work because I recognize it's Chris's work. That's his signature. That's his shadow. It could be equally the opposite, right? It could be, what crappy craftsmanship. I know who did this work, right?
Yep.
So I define good work as your imprint left over after you're way, way gone. If I can define it in that way, then I can say that I have been of the mindset that I want to leave behind me a very good shadow. That when I do work, if Chris comes after me and says, "Who did this work?" and says, "Oh, you know what? You did this work." That's how he works. And I was always interested in doing that, and throughout my life, and I of course exercised that in the military. Because of that, on my second boat that I was on, I don't know, again, I'm not sure how the circumstances were. Long story short, the ship decided to send me all their troublemakers, people that refused to work in any department. They sent them to UV. And I'm not sure what that was, but they did. I wasn't high ranking. I was actually very low ranked, but I had a very good name for good work ethics, as defined as I just defined it. And I remember the first individual that showed up in my division, and he said, I'm here to report to you. I'm here to work with you. And I said, great. And the first morning, I have my duties every day. We're on the boat. I took my tool bag, I took my stuff, and I left the workspace, and I went to do my work. I came back 10 hours later. The same individual was sitting in the same chair where he was in the morning. And the same thing happened for the next 3 days. I never told him what to do. I never told him to do anything, in fact. On the fourth day, the individual said to me, "Can I join you? Can I go along with you?" I said, "Oh, absolutely. Here, take this, this, and this." We went to the job site. And he said, and I started working. He said, "Well, is there anything I can do?" I said, "Oh, absolutely. This, this, and this." By the sixth day, the guy was a worker. Now, I think I had about an 85% success rate using this method. There are individuals that, regardless of your leadership, regardless of how you ask people to, they won't. It's just they choose not to do so. But it was incredible to me that a large percentage of people did respond very positively to a very non-aggressive leadership. The old saying of leadership by example is not just a saying. If you use it, it actually works. Not always. Again, it's not 100% foolproof. There are individuals who will make a conscious choice to say, "The heck with your nonsense, I'm not here to do anything." That's fine. That's actually a great filter, because you want people that will do stuff because of voluntary choices, not under duress. That style of leadership has stayed with me. I've never had to raise my voice at anyone. I've never demanded anyone to do anything. In fact, I had a worker years ago ask me, said, "Why are you so polite when you speak to us? You can just tell me what to do." And I said, "No, I can't. I'm not your father. I'm here to work with you, and you're here to work with me. The only thing I can do is ask you to do something. I cannot demand." So he said, "Well, I don't have to do it." I said, "No, you don't. There are consequences for your decisions. But no, I cannot or should not demand of you to do anything. By free will, by mutual contract agreement, you choose to do what I ask." That has been my style.
UV, did you learn that style from your father? Did you learn that from another NCO or an officer in the military? Is that just something come natural to you?
That's just who I am. That's just innate to my character. I am confrontational. I love confrontations. I love arguments. But I believe that people do good work given the opportunity and given that it's their choice. I could be mistaken, but I believe that's true.
Have you had people in your past that have not reacted well to that type of leadership? Maybe they needed more structure and you parted ways?
Absolutely. That's, I call work and people when they work with me, I call that a marriage. And people laugh at my analogy, but I call it a marriage. When you come and if we work together, we are engaged. Literally, in the true sense of the word, we are engaged in an environment to produce something. I have my chore, you have your chore, and we are engaged to do it. I make the analogy that working in a company are like horses pulling a chariot or a wagon. Right. You have a team of horses, let's say 6-8 horses pulling one of these Wells Fargo wagons. If one horse, after 400 miles, says, you know what, I'm done pulling for a while. I'm just not going to pull anymore. What is the driver going to do with that horse?
He's going to get rid of him, right?
If it's part of the team, yeah.
He's not going to feed him. He's out. Maybe he'll pasture him. He's out, right? There's no difference in work. If we are, 40 people working together and one person says, you know what, I've done my time. I don't have to work as hard anymore. I did 2 years of really good work. I'll just sit back and just let the other horses pull really hard. Doesn't work.
Nope.
I actually had an executive years ago make that exact claim. He made that exact word for word what I just said. He said, I've done my time here. And I said, nope, that's not how I interpret it. We don't stop ever. There is no stop other than true retirement. While you're engaged with the organization, it's a mutual understanding that you keep pulling forever until you decide not to pull any further, which is fine. But while we are engaged, you have to pull.
We're together.
We're together. So yes, if I had people that said, no, I'm done, you're not demanding, so I will not, great. Here's the door. Like, it was great knowing you. You're a great person. We're great friends. As it comes to work, we have a disagreement, and that's absolutely okay.
That's some leadership lessons right here. I don't think that we intended to have such a deep dive into your leadership focus and your view of it, but we really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. I agree. Coming kind of back on track a little bit here with our interview questions. What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? What is the big thing that you want to accomplish in the next 5 to 10 years with your company?
So, because we are in a small marketplace, if you will, there's going to be a limit. There's a very, very well-defined limit to what we can achieve. Unlike your Amazons, unlike your Apples, we do have an absolute ceiling that will be hard to go above that ceiling. Now, what that ceiling, how I define it, every transport in North America, I want it to be mine. So right now, there's quite a few that are still not mine, and I want every transport now. And I'll tell you why. It's not as much as an egocentric goal, which there is ego. Anybody that says there is no ego is living in a slightly untruthful world. The reason I really want every one of my transports to be on the road because they are a safer transport. And I do believe in if you can fix the world, quote unquote, and the definition of fixing the world, in my culture, we have literally one of our mantras is called fix the world. In the Hebrew, it's tikkun olam. And the idea is that every human being has an ability to do something, and I will use the word righteous, to do something which affects humanity in a positive direction. In my world, in my abilities, it is building a vessel that has to be used because that's who we are as a civilization, the direction we've taken. But if I can make it better and safer so that there's less potential damage to humanity, that is my goal. So I don't know if it's the next 5 years or 10 years, but we are in a growth mode for at least another 10, 20 years. And that's my huge goal.
Well, UV, we're going to roll into the lightning round now. And so just wanted to ask you, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have a lot of different hacks. Sometimes they have life hacks, technology hacks, time hacks. What is something that you say, this has been effective for me, this is my favorite hack?
You won't like my response, Greg. I don't believe in hacks.
Okay.
I don't believe they exist. I don't believe that there's a magic wand that if you do this, it works. If you don't do that, it doesn't work. My response to that is there are, I suspect, in life and in business, obviously because it's part of life, I suspect there are 3 pillars. We use the word 3 pillars in many attributes. In engineering, we use it many times. And I believe there are 3 pillars in business as well. They are, one at least, is going to be who you are as a person, what is your goal, and how strong are you willing, or how much are you willing to sacrifice to attain that goal. The second pillar is that will the terrain that you're in, will that support your goal? The third pillar is luck. So I'm uncomfortable with the word, is there a hack that you can, that you've learned? I don't think it exists. I think if you understand that those 3 goals or 3 pillars that make things happen or not happen, I think is a more, to me at least, and I don't mean to belittle the idea of a hack. Just in my life, in my experience, it doesn't align with my philosophy. To me, it's if we are going to use the word hack, to me the hack will be to understand your environment, understand where you are, do the best that you can with your abilities because they are limited. And, I hate to use the expression hope for the best, but hope for the best. Because there is an absolute level of luck. And when I use the word luck, it's not, did I win the lottery or not? The idea of luck is, what are the circumstances in the field there to support what it is you're doing? There's a great joke that I guess I go to where there's a very old religious individual, and from the time he's 9 years old, he kneels at his bed and he prays to God. And by the time he's 20 years old, he changes his prayer and he says, "Oh, dear God Almighty, let me win the lottery." And he does this religiously every Friday. He kneels, and one day when he's 95 years old, he does the same thing. He kneels, "Oh God, can I just win the lottery?" When all of a sudden, great rumble and thunder, his roof is torn off. God peers down in his bedroom and says, "Hey, Jacob, do you think about buying a ticket?" And that is to say that we can't just sit back and hope for things to happen. You have to partake in your goals, and again, they may or may not come to fruition.
But you have to be prepared.
You have to be prepared.
So the next question here is, what book, podcast, or album, right, that our listeners can listen to right now that will help them right now?
If you're going to be in business, there are 2 books that to me are crucial. Obviously not the only 2 books, because if there were the only 2 books, there would be no need for business school. But the 2 books that I think have been incredible influence on my career. One has been, as I discussed earlier, is Andrew Carnegie. And there's quite a few autobiographies on Andrew Carnegie. I ran into him by mistake in one of my history classes and fell in love with him. So Andrew Carnegie was a very interesting individual, but not the fact where he shot his workers when they didn't show up to work. I don't agree with that philosophy, because that would be under duress, which I am against. But he had some really good philosophies about how to run a business, which were equally smart in the earlier 20th century and are equally as important in our 21st century, because those are fundamental philosophies which have not changed. The next one is The Goal, and that book is taught by business schools, and a well read book to help anyone in business.
Great. Well, is there a challenge that you and your business is facing, and how can the Aggie Network support you?
The challenges that many small businesses face, especially growing businesses, is cash flow. Anybody who wants to go into business needs to understand that unless they have a gold mine, either in the business or in reality, they're going to face a challenge in cash flow, which is to say they're going to face a challenge in banking. I have been, I guess, lucky enough that I was able to convince, if you will, my bankers that our goal is good and they should help me. That they should help support me. I've had some family assistance in terms of money, which again you cannot exist in this world, in our industry, without money. I don't think the Aggie network is in the place right now to do that, and I would not be asking for it. But it's nice to maintain relationships. We are a small community. I mean, I don't sell any of my products to the community because they don't belong. But it is nice to be part of the community. So I'm not sure that's a direct answer, but that's where we are.
No, that's very good. But I think every entrepreneur that's out there knows that cash is king, but cash flow is queen. And to be able to have a vision and to be able to say, okay, here's where I want to go, and then have your banker that's actually an asset to you support that.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So how can the Aggie Network get in touch with you to help support you if there is anything that they can do?
Pigeons. Send some pigeons.
I love it. That's the best answer we've had yet.
I'll send them back with an olive branch. We'll just keep in touch. I'm easily found. We're not shy, and we absolutely love being part of this community. There are many things that can happen here in a good way.
Very much so. Well, Yuvi, thank you so much for the lessons in leadership. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your support of Aggie Growth Hacks and the entrepreneurs that listen to this. I know we've taken a lot of your time today, but I know Chris and I have enjoyed it thoroughly. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Oh, thanks for inviting me, and it's a pleasure. It's only when you speak your mind, it actually helps evolve it even further. So thank you for the opportunity.
How about that, Ags? What a lesson in leadership that we got there. There were so many things, so many valuable hacks that Yuvi shared with us. What was your favorite, Greg?
Well, Chris, I think the favorite thing, I actually got little goose pimples when he talked about it. When he talked about that story about his former Navy captain, that they were in a very sensitive and potentially dangerous situation. And he looked back at that captain and he just had calmness. You had to know that captain had a million things on his mind, trying to deal with everything on the ship, higher above. And you and I both know from a military experience that it is not just the vessel of the ship that's in that situation, but to be able to provide that calmness, and then for Yuvi to look at that and say, that will be me. And in their times, and he didn't go into too much, but there were, I kind of inferred that there were some times that there were some big accidents or something happened in his company, and he had to be like, that will be me. I will be calm. COVID happening, I will be calm. I will show my employees that we are going to get through this, that we are going to be strong. And that example of leadership, man, I was so stoked when he said that. What about you?
I agree. Leadership is huge, and I think that's what this whole episode was really about, was leadership and so forth. The biggest takeaway that I had, though, was a little bit different. He says he doesn't believe in hacks. However, this is a hack. 100%, this is a hack. Okay, that he went to a convention with his new design for this propane. What do you call it? Tank transport.
Tank transport,
right? Yep. And he had a new design, hadn't been changed in 50 years, and all of a sudden he's got a brand new design, and he was laughed at, right, at this convention. He plowed through it, though. He went forward with their design, with their ideas, and so forth. I think that we as entrepreneurs, and I read this in a book by Chet Holmes, right, that us as entrepreneurs, us as we have to be pig-headed, We have to know that we are right, that we're going to get through this and we're going to move forward, and we have to have determination and move forward with our ideas, with our designs, with our business. And we have to show that to our employees that we are going to be that pig-headed. We are moving forward no matter what. I think that's something huge for any leader to learn, and that's huge for any entrepreneur to have in their arsenal, if you will, of tools to use moving forward as an entrepreneur.
I agree 100% because no one's going to care about your baby, about your business more than you. And so when everybody else is not sure, you as the leader have to be 1,000% sure, and you have to have confidence in yourself. But I also like that he said, don't be stupid about it. If the world, if you're making a buggy whip and the cars are coming on, you could still be in your conviction that is a great thing to do, but you can't be stupid about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Aggie Growth Hacks. We hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll leave us a rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbeam, or wherever you found us. Be sure to check out our website at aggiegrowthhacks.com, where you can hear this episode as well as all of our future episodes. We'd love to connect with you, and we'd love to hear about your favorite hacks and feature you and your business on a future episode.
Aggie Growth Hacks was produced by Kyle Ackerman and Ben Wiggins with Podcast Architects. We also want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M University. Since 1999, the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship has served as the hub of entrepreneurship for Texas A&M. If you're an Aggie entrepreneur or even a wantrepreneur, head over to their website to find a program that's right for you. Join us next time when we connect with other great Aggie entrepreneurs and learn how they hack their growth. Until then, I'm Chris Hunter.
And I'm Greg Martin. Thanks and gig 'em.